The Southern love tale that we believe to be unbreakable just broke like a cheap champagne glass at a celebrity after-party. Ladies and gents, get ready. Hip-hop royalties ride-or-die pair Tiny and T may have recently pulled off one of the most unexpected, covert, and utterly chaotic weddings the industry has ever witnessed. Here's the twist, though. The issue wasn't the wedding. It was the truth. Now ask yourself this. When the Queen of Loyalty finally has enough of her king's deception, what will happen? When the cameras stop rolling, what happens? The PR claims wane, and all that remains is a trail of contracts, tears, and love that has been put up for sale since, according to sources with dramatic pauses, this private wedding had nothing to do with love. It was about power, control, and a last-ditch effort to save a brand that is collapsing more quickly than T.I.'s reputation. What actually transpired behind those curtains covered with diamonds? Who released the video that is currently making the rounds on every rumor website like a wildfire in the digital realm? Above all, is this the scandal that will ultimately bring down T.I.'s meticulously constructed empire of family values? Keep an eye out. Let's peel back the velvet curtain on a love story that was never truly about love, ladies and gentlemen. Because nothing, I mean nothing, is ever as it seems when it comes to T and Tiny. The tabloids will claim that they are Atlanta's Bonnie and Clyde, a couple with platinum albums and extensive prison sentences. However, behind the practiced interviews and matching smiles is a story that is more treachery than loyalty. And it all fell apart in a covert wedding that nobody anticipated. See, a good redemption narrative is highly valued in the industry. Tiny, the devoted queen who supported T, the self-proclaimed king of the South, through every cheating scandal, judicial catastrophe, and it wasn't me moment. However, loyalty has the potential to be the most harmful substance. Additionally, rumors are circulating that Tiny's patients have finally snapped in ways that were impossible for even the most dramatic reality show to plan. This is when things get crazy, because this was not your typical fairy tale wedding, complete with happy tears and lifelong vows. Not at all. This was a calculated action. An insider close to the couple claims that every detail of the ceremony, including the flowers, the designer dress, and even the guest list, was planned with one goal in mind: control. And outside of Tiny's authority, T.I.'s, it seems that Tiny was prepared to walk after years of public humiliation, with documents signed and a deal done. Be her own lady at last. However, a new arrangement that was more of a trap than a prenuptial agreement materialized just as the ink was drying. It was said that the ceremony was private. Only close relatives, a few well-known figures from the sector, and an oddly sizable group of lawyers posing as event planners. Here's the catch, though. It has been reported that this covert wedding was not legally binding. Yes, take a moment to process that. It was videotaped and staged. A show designed to reassure viewers that the pair was back on track. T.I. was discreetly negotiating ownership holdings and assets, not in love behind closed doors. One unnamed insider asserts, and I quote, "This wasn't about starting over. It was about locking things down before she walked away." The pattern has always been there, so let's go back in time for some background. After every PR crisis, T has attempted to play the role of family man. Do you recall the notorious interview with Heyman Gate? That ought to have been the warning sign in high definition. The one when everyone on the internet cried out, "What?" That father wasn't merely overly cautious. That man had a control obsession. After a few years, His marriage began to suffer from the same mindset. Tiny was no longer the submissive partner, though this time, she had had enough. T, however, was aware that losing Tiny meant more than simply losing a wife. Losing the illusion, the innocent black love brand that aided in his recovery from each controversy, was the problem. T wasn't the changed family man without Tiny. He was simply another rapper with a troubled past and a precarious public image. So, how can that be fixed? Simple. You make up a fresh story. One where you get married again, love of your life, in a heartfelt, private ceremony that exudes forgiveness and reconciliation. This time, though, it was business rather than forgiveness. According to industry rumors, T.I.'s public relations staff meticulously planned the entire event. The Tiny side niece, who was the flower girl, then disclosed that she was required to sign an NDA. A family lawyer with a side business in brand management, the officer is not a priest. And Tiny was later spotted sporting that expensive diamond ring. Suppose that the jeweler says he hasn't been paid in full. Imagine the optics now. Press received stolen photos, headlines describing it as a sign of rekindled love, and comments from followers full of black love goals. Beneath those smiles, however, lay a war zone, contracts, attorneys, and a camera team who believed they were recording a pilot for a reality program. Nobody was aware that everything was videotaped by a certain person, who will name the insider. And by everything, I mean every tense mutter, every phony grin, and every off-camera dispute over money, music rights, and who should own the Buckhead estate. According to reports, the video, which is currently in the possession of a gossip website that rhymes with shade zoom, shows Tiny leaving the party in the middle of the toast and flinging her bouquet at T rather than her bridesmaids. What actually took place that evening then? A leaked communication claims that Tiny learned that T.I. had reorganized their joint business accounts just before the ceremony. He had shifted ownership of their label branch, moved money covertly, and even put his name on assets they used to jointly own. When her team attempted to call off the event, attendees had already arrived, cameras were rolling, and T.I.'s ideal tale of redemption was already underway. According to reports, Tiny cooperated, smiling during the vows and suppressing her tears during the kiss long enough to collect her own receipts. Oh, she collected them. Text logs, emails, and even signed NDAs with hazy signatures. Tiny was no longer a bride by the time the cake was cut. She was a woman who was using celebration to document her own release. At that point, everything became more sinister, because the following morning, as the press raved about, T reportedly woke up to 3 additional legal notices after Tiny's covert wedding. Inquiries of questionable financial restructuring were made by Tiny's management, her entertainment lawyer, and a purported federal agency, and the meltdown started at that point. According to witnesses, about 3 in the morning, T.I. was saw pacing outside his Atlanta residence. TMZ vans were already circling the block when the shirtless man screamed, "Who leaked it?" into his phone. Blew up. Supporters divided into factions. #TAmpty for those who still believe he was being set up, and #Tiny for the ride or die wife who at last got up. Twitter was overrun with memes. Overnight, TikTok edits received 1 million views. Additionally, Instagram gossip pages had a field day. But there was a question lurking beneath all the hubbub. What else about their marriage wasn't real if the wedding wasn't? This is where the narrative takes a turn that no one anticipated. Because a suspicious envelope appeared on the desk of a major Atlanta news site, just as everyone assumed this was simply another PR snub. No fingerprints, no return address. A USB device with the label "Vows of Deception" was inside. Rumor has it that the information on the drive not only reveals the phony wedding, but it also completely changes our understanding of Tiny and T.I.'s business. Let's take a moment to remember the folks who made it all possible before we reveal that shocking revelation. The people who remained silent as the lies piled up like platinum, the inner circle, and the facilitators' plaques. Because the reality becomes too explosive to ignore once you realize who is actually controlling this fictitious love story. Thus, the enigmatic USB bearing the words, "Vows of Deception," did not materialize overnight. In a game that had been played behind closed doors for months, it was the last card. Journalists at ATL now anticipated sloppy wedding footage, or even some leaked text messages when they broke it open. However, they discovered something much more ominous and cinematic. Hours of video, voice notes, timestamps, and what appeared to be security footage from inside T.I. and Tiny's home studio were all included. Their unfiltered disputes, erased records, and disparate financial accounts were the cause of the discrepancy. Someone inside the camp had been getting ready to blow the whistle before the first bouquet was ever thrown. According to the file metadata, which was dated 2 days prior to the wedding. Let's not mince words. This was more than marital drama. Encased in fancy outfits and diamonds, this was corporate espionage, since behind those files was evidence of brand relationships masquerading as money laundering. The phony but incredibly convincing documents claimed that T.I.'s production company was using shell accounts linked to foreign entertainment managers to transfer marketing funds. Additionally, one of those aliases corresponded to a long-running UK promoter who uses cryptocurrency casinos to launder celebrity money. Was any of this real now? Obviously not. However, perception is power in the realm of gossip, and T.I. had nothing left but perception. When the news leaked, fans dug in. The old receipts came back. Backup dancers' tweets asserting they were not compensated. Before completely erasing her account, an assistant posted a money bag, a broken heart, a ring, and mysterious emojis. The online investigators went crazy. Reddit posts resembled FBI case files. Everyone was curious about the sender of that USB. Some said it was a stylist who was close to Tiny and had been kicked out of the couple's social group following a reported argument about stolen clothing. Some thought it was an attempt at retaliation by one of T.I.'s former co-workers, who had sufficient access to his cloud storage to ruin everything. In the meantime, the press was savoring the juicy hypothesis that Tiny herself leaked it as a warning shot, saying, "You wanted control? Now you've lost everything." Hollywood Unlocked, The Shade Room, and TMZ. The drama was too much for even the publications who claimed to be above gossip. One of the headlines said, "From Southern King to pawn in his own game. The ultimate power play is another Tiny's revenge wedding." And it was precisely that. Because one thing became evident if you paid close attention to the audio clips that were leaked. He had been outplayed by Tiny. You can hear a lady who sounds remarkably like Tiny say, "You think I don't know what you're doing? I'm going to let you play your game, but remember I taught you how to cheat." In one especially damning voice note that was purportedly recorded days prior to the wedding. The video became viral. The internet went crazy, and T remained quiet. The self-described rap philosopher was silent for the first time in years. No podcast monologues, no Instagram tirades, just quiet. And no denial could overpower that quiet. However, let's discuss the so-called inner circle. Those who did speak up. Things became considerably filthy at that point. T.I.'s longtime manager had been warning him for months to detach himself from the controversies by cleaning up his image, according to unnamed insiders. However, T apparently declined, saying he remained relevant because of controversy. The manager allegedly claimed that he believed he could spin anything in a phony quotation that went viral on Twitter. But he was turned around by the spin this time. Tiny's camp, meanwhile, was acting in the other way. They remained composed, calculated, and quiet. The kind of quiet that gives headlines their bite. Her crew began posting cryptic comments about rebirth, locking down social media, unfollowing specific individuals, and stating that truth always prevails. It was deemed petty by fans. Insiders referred to it as genius. And a leaked invoice caused the storm to worsen, just when everyone felt it couldn't get any worse. Yes, a bill. It first surfaced on Reddit before catching on like wildfire. It displayed a transaction for the renewal of a private venue code for event security, approved by a business connected to one of T.I.'s sham companies and paid in cash. The internet made the connection at that point. It was more than just a wedding. It was a way to hide things. Much, much larger. Rumors began to circulate that federal investigators were already looking into the possibility that this wedding was being utilized to transfer hush money to silence some individuals regarding a 2020 event involving a purported studio assault. In the court of public opinion, confirmation is irrelevant, even though none of it was verified. The damage was caused by the memes. #T.I. Busted became popular. Clips from Tiny's previous reality program reappeared. Frame after frame, fans started examining her facial expressions and remarking things like, "Look, she hasn't done anything since 2017. And that smile is all PR." However, one unexpected event occurred in the midst of the confusion. Feelings of sympathy for Tiny surged. The internet's new emblem of silent retaliation was the same woman who had been made fun of for sticking by her guy. Brands made contact. Interviews were sought by talk shows. Finally, it was announced that streaming services began bidding for the documentary rights to Tiny's secret wedding. The truth behind the vows. T.I.'s empire, meanwhile, was blazing from the inside out. Sponsorships took a break. His song rotations were momentarily halted by radio stations. His lawyer left and the sponsors of his podcast left. Overnight, he was replaced with a crisis PR consultant who, according to one insider, told him, "You need to cry on camera or this career is over." Naturally, he did. Wearing the same modest hoodie that all celebrities wear when everything goes wrong, T made an Instagram live appearance a week after the leak, her eyes red and her voice shaking. He asserted fans didn't believe the doctored footage, which claimed that the wedding was real and that the whole tale was unknown. The comments came pouring in. "Clifford, save it. The receipts were shown to us. Tiny is worthy of better. In 4K, it was a digital disaster." However, Tiny had one more secret up her sleeve, which people were not yet aware of. Because a huge event was taking place behind the scenes while everyone's attention was on T.I.'s breakdown. Using a provision from the same fictitious marriage contract T had duped Tiny into signing, Tiny's attorney discreetly applied for legal ownership of a number of their joint company endeavors. To put it another way, he authored his own demise. She used the contract he created to control her as a weapon to break free and seize part of his empire. She didn't simply walk away, according to a person close to her. He became the antagonist in his own story after she flipped the script and wrote a new one. At this stage, the public was actively involved, not merely observing. Every fresh rumor, every phony leak, and every TikTok theory contributed to the legend. And little, bright, quiet, unconcerned, publishing only one quote: "Karma never fails." However, no one, not even T himself, nor any of the bloggers or fans, realized that the actual storm had not yet begun. Because a new name emerged in the story just as T believed he could rehabilitate, just as he began requesting favors and attempting to regain his reputation as a family man. One that brought about a complete transformation. A woman who had been silently in the background the entire time, a collaborator, an artist, and perhaps the true reason the wedding took place at all. And that's where this story turns from a muddle to a disaster, my friends. And just when you thought there was no way this roller coaster could be any more twisted, a new name appeared, and the internet went crazy. Isla Monroe, the up-and-coming R&B singer who had only been signed to T.I.'s label 6 months prior, was the mysterious woman behind the scenes. Prior to the wedding, Isla was no longer just another artist striving for stardom. She was handpicked by T himself and promoted as the next big thing. A tragic past, a smooth voice, and an innocent face are all designed to evoke sympathy. The fairy story, however, became a full-fledged scandal at this point. For insiders claim that Isla was more than just a mentee. The fictitious wedding was actually caused by her. See, rumor has it that T had been coaching Isla for several months, late private dinners, visits to Miami, creative camaraderie, and late-night studio sessions that strangely never involved Tiny. According to one insider, even the engineers stopped acting as though they were unaware of the strong electricity between them. However, Tiny lost her temper when she learned about it. Yes, another one. Tiny addressed T.I. just 2 days prior to the ceremony. According to a leaked text thread, she allegedly wrote, "You want to embarrass me? Fine, I'll give you the stage. Let's see how you handle the situation." In the screenshots titled TT Convo January 14th, "Spotlight when everyone is looking." And that's when the alleged wedding took a last turn, my friends. Because it was Tiny's ultimate act of retaliation, even though everyone believed it to be a last-ditch effort to keep their marriage intact. An Emmy could have been given to a performance that was so masterfully planned. She gave him the impression that he had planned the event. Let him make the decisions. Allow him to create the illusion, knowing that she had sufficient proof to destroy the entire empire once the cameras ceased to roll. This is the point at which Layla Monroe returns to the fray. Isla inexplicably disappeared from social media a week after the breach, deleting everything on Instagram, TikTok, and even her Spotify page. Then, an anonymous Reddit post appeared, claiming to contain exclusive audio from a discussion that was captured the night before the wedding between Layla and T. "I got to make this look real, baby. Once this is over, we'll be set for life." A voice that sounds remarkably similar to T says in the video. The hashtags #Lagate, #WeddingCam, and #TinyNews began trending globally, and verified celebrities began subtweeting cryptic reactions. "You said she wouldn't find out." And that's when the internet exploded. Fans began connecting the dots. Her disappearance, his meltdown, the wedding, and everything lined up too perfectly. Of course, the audio sounded edited, but when has that ever stopped the internet? In order to win the game, the queen occasionally sacrifices the king, according to a well-known producer. "Al is on fire," wrote another simply. And they weren't wrong, because within days, what began as a messy celebrity scandal escalated into a full-fledged industry investigation. Reporters claimed to have sources claiming the IRS was secretly interested in Tiny's offshore business ventures, and his legal team allegedly met with entertainment auditors to delve into years of T.I.'s label finances. Whether this was true or not, it didn't matter. He went from being a family man in Atlanta to becoming popular under the moniker T the Fraud. And as the house of cards collapsed, so did T.I.'s meticulously crafted persona. His brand deals were gone, his motivational speaking engagements were canceled, and his podcast was quickly suspended indefinitely. But what about Tiny? While the internet debated whether she was a victim or a mastermind, she was busy rebranding herself brilliantly, slowly, and silently, and within weeks she released a mysterious teaser for a documentary, Love, the trailer, a montage of headlines, wedding footage, the Tiny Harris narrative, and that eerie clip of T screaming. Who released it? Interrupted by Tiny's voiceover, "The truth doesn't need defending." Let's not forget how it all began. A covert wedding that wasn't really a wedding. But this is where the story takes its last delectable turn. It was poetic, well executed, and agonizingly rewarding.